Hello everyone. Some of you may be wondering why I'm even making this video. Uh, the Tobi drama is dead and buried. Why are you reigniting drama? Just relax, just chill. This has very little to do with the Tobi drama at all. That is its own can of worms that deserves its own separate video and will be discussed very little here. I don't want to go over it any more than you want to hear about it. No. I'm talking about this because I feel I need to. There's a reason I titled the video the way I did and put new information in brackets. Now, for those wondering who the fuck this pink-shirted, nasally little dipshit is, my name is Patrick Talks Too Much. I love the sound of my own voice, and you should too. That is absolutely my birth name. I am absolutely that egotistical, and that was absolutely a demand of you and not just a silly catchphrase. From the moment I saw Tobi's call-out video essay, The Faults of CreepShow Art, upon initial release, June 10th, 2020, I didn't like it. I was a big fan of CreepShow Art, whom for simplicity's sake I will be referring to as Shannon at the time, so I was already biased against it in a "you're criticizing my fave, how dare you" kind of way. And besides, the video just didn't click with me in general. There was something wrong with it that I just couldn't put my finger on. I hadn't seen the videos of Shannon's Tobi was responding to in a while, yet it still felt like Tobi was commenting on them in a weird way that just didn't sit right with me. There was something about her commentary that I just felt was lacking. But the video was positively received by fans, ex-fans, and casual viewers alike, so I just chalked it up to me not being a fan of Tobi's style of commentary. Shannon released her response video acknowledging my criticisms the very next day on the 10th, and finding her rebuttal sufficient, I soon forgot about the whole thing and moved on with my life. I completely forgot about Tobi's existence until a while later when then newbie YouTuber Kai Weiss uploaded his video The Faults of Tobi Majestic on June 24th, 2020. I was very taken aback by the erratic behavior Kai was calling out in that video, and I agreed that Tobi was being majorly hypocritical. You can't hate video essays, but then make a video essay on someone. I agreed with Kai's criticism, and still not being a fan of Tobi, just assumed that this was a one-time offense and moved on with my life yet again. It was around this time that I was introduced to the larger art commentary community via Omnia and her Dolly Guts series, a set of videos that have not aged well in hindsight. Like most people who saw those videos, I found I liked her personality, I became a fan, and quickly subbed and hit the notification bell. And it was due to said notification bell that on the dreaded date of September 19th, 2020, I was notified Omnia posted a new video. And that video was The Faults of Tobi, feat. Kai Weiss. To think that a simple call-out video of questionable yet minor behavior would be the inciting incident for an art commentary community civil war that is, as of yet, still going on. End my suffering, please, someone, I beg of you. Tobi lost her shit at this video, and on September 24th, 2020, she released an over-emotional, defamatory, and self-destructing video called Addressing My Criticism to widespread disgust and anger from people on all sides. Omni and Kai would fire back in self-defense shortly after on the 26th with Dear Tobi and Madlibs feat. Kai Weiss, and the situation would further devolve into utter chaos from there. The situation was a massive blow to Tobi's YouTube career, and I highly doubt she'll ever recover from it. Her channel is dead in the water, her Twitter had to be deleted due to constant harassment, and she's remembered not for any of her content, but for being the 2020 equivalent of Pentagrin and Stories, the two main players in inciting the Spoctor drama back in 2018. It was around this time, having seen Tobi lie through her teeth trying to discredit her critics, that it made me wonder, what about her original Faults of Creepshow Art video? If she was willing to lie about Omni and Kai, is it possible she lied about Shannon as well? On October 6, 2020, I rewatched that video alongside two of Shannon's that were featured in it to double-check Tobi's claims. The videos of Shannon's I rewatched were the Worst Twitter Artist Ever and the Anti-Vax Defender ASMR channel, Karuna Satori, by the way. The other two, Jaclyn Hillsdad is a cult leader, and we need to talk about hashtag cancel Jaclyn had since been unlisted, and I hadn't taken the time to dig them back up yet. As I took both sides into account, it became jarringly apparent to me that Tobi's video was a hot mess, although nobody seemed to realize it at the time for some reason. I downloaded the Faults of CreepShow art that very night, and in hindsight, it was a stroke of luck on my part, because 3 days later, on the 9th, Tobi privated the video. She stated on her Twitter, quote, "I've been thinking about it for a while, and I decided to take down in private my CreepShow video, mostly because over the past couple of months, I've slowly stopped being proud of it for obvious reasons, and I just don't want it up anymore. There are several points in the video that I no longer feel I agree with, and currently having the video up also stresses me out since I posted it. Maybe in the future I'll clean it up and put it back on my channel, but for now, I just don't want it up." End quote. I contest this, however. Tobi has made a video on Shannon previously called My Issue with CreepShow Art's Jaclyn video, "Don't Hate Me, Ooh Woo." Fucking Christ. Which she references in the Faults of CreepShow art video itself with utter disdain.
Yes, I already know I made a video about this, but shh, okay? Shut up. The video fucking sucked. Sonic Boom level of poo-poo.
She was clearly very self-conscious about it, and yet, that video is still up on her channel even now while the far superior video was removed. I think the real reason that she decided to take the video down was because at the end of Dear Tobi and Madlibs v. Kai Weiss said this.
"You were supposed to be the girl who put CreepShow in her place. Sad that you ended up just like her."
Considering Tobi pulled the Faults of CreepShow art just shy of 2 weeks after Dear Tobi and Madlibs v. Kai Weiss was released, makes me think Tobi's ego was a tad damaged. Keep in mind, though, that this is complete speculation on my part. I am totally willing to accept it was nothing more than coincidence. I'm just saying, kinda fishy. The Faults of CreepShow art is chock full of lies by omission. It is a narrative severely warped by bias, lack of research, and what reads to me as pure spite. The misinformation in this video is extremely basic shit, like, actually watch the videos you're responding to, or do a 5-second Google search. Basic. Despite these obvious flaws, most casual viewers and many commentary YouTubers alike took it to heart and spread it around like the goddamn plague. Or the coronavirus. I will concede, however, that while most of the video is objectively awful, there is one section that, despite not being handled well in the slightest, does expose a legitimate fuck-up on Shannon's part that she has weaseled her way out of taking accountability for. We will get to that later. My breakdown of this video is going to be ponder sprocket levels of lengthy, in-depth, and savage. I pull no punches. And like the Octomama does at the beginning of all of her videos, I want to make something abundantly clear. I am going to be salty, blunt, and ruthless in this video. All of that is for humorous effect. I want to entertain while I dismantle and debunk Tobi's videos piece by piece. However, that is not a justification for you, the viewer, to go harass anyone mentioned in this video. Humor for the sake of making a deconstruction entertaining is not how to interact with anyone directly. I'm not going to throw up some wishy-washy limp dick, "Hey guys, don't go do anything bad, leave these people alone," text on screen at the beginning and call it a day. I am demanding that everything talked about here stays here. You can be as critical and salty as you want in the comments, within reason. That's what they're there for. But if you take it off platform, go harass them on Twitter, raid their videos, troll them on Discord, or anything of the sort, you are explicitly going against my wishes and do not have my support. TLDR, don't be an asshole. I would also like to take this time to address my own biases in this situation. I myself have been a longtime subscriber of Shannon's. I found her through, it was her Lily Jean video, I think? I don't remember exactly. And I have been subbed ever since. I love her older commentary and story times, and admittedly, am not the biggest fan of her new content, though I do still watch her from time to time. I do not hate her, and I was never on the "Shannon's content sucks, she must pay for her insubordinations" train. I always found it stupid. It always came to me as a bunch of people who gained a parasocial relationship with Shannon, feeling that relationship was betrayed when her content shifted, and as such, were scrambling to find a justification for not liking her anymore. Tobi, on the other hand, I have never liked. I already mentioned how I wasn't a big fan of the Faults of CreepShow Art, one of her more popular videos, and generally found her flighty and insufferable. To be clear, that is not an inherent indictment against her, it's just me not gelling with her personality. I feel like you can acknowledge that someone is a nice person even if you yourself don't like them. That being said, Tobi is not a nice person. Tobi is a genuinely shitty individual who treats those around her like garbage. She has framed small YouTuber Ben the Looney as a pedophilic abuser, blackmailed and publicly blasted ex-friend one-man show-off, has been outwardly nasty and transphobic to a trans viewer of hers in the comment section of one of her videos, tried to frame Omnia as a terrible person that attempted to dox her, and a ton of other shit. Not a good person! Tobi blames much of her behavior on her mental illness, BPD, and has taken no accountability for her actions as such. But as someone who suffers from and is medicated for manic depression and bipolar disorder, I can safely say that being mentally ill does not absolve you of your actions. If you hurt someone, you hurt someone, no matter the cause, and you need to take proper accountability for it. You can be neurodivergent and also be a shit person. It's not mutually exclusive. I want to lay all of this out for full transparency. I'm not going to pretend that my personal feelings don't cover my views somewhat, though I have done everything in my power to be as fair as possible. There is still the possibility that some of my points may be skewed, and I'm willing to hear critique of that. I am genuinely trying to be informative and helpful and not screw someone over for the hell of it or incite a witch hunt. And finally, this is the first video I have ever scripted. It was a massive learning curve for me, and I'm not going to pretend it's flawless. There is always a possibility that I got something wrong, left something out, or misunderstood an argument. If I fuck something up, please let me know. If there's evidence that needs to be added or discredit something I said, please let me know. I am more than happy to pin critical comments and take accountability for any of my mistakes. There are also some sections where the issue at hand is morally gray versus black or white. Some of you may feel differently than I do in those situations, and that's fine. If you want to give your opinion, feel free. So, without further ado, ladies, gentlemen, and those who lieth betwixt, let's get into the whole shit show and debacle, shall we?
Hey, look at me, I'm what you want to see. I promise I'm real, not trying to deceive. Won't be, blink your eyes, you won't believe it is true. Just come with me right now, I'll take and show you. You really thought I was what you were looking for. It's like that in your head, you just got me.
It's weird how people who watched the video got that message, but the people who didn't thought it was shitty.
Chapter 1. Crossing a Line.
Completely honest, I've been super stressed about this video, and the only reason that I'm doing it is because nobody else really will. I ended up trying to get a collaboration from a couple of different people about this topic, seeming as a lot of people that I talked to had the same opinions that I did and the same kind of points that I did. However, that was a little difficult because a lot of creators, the second that I told them what the video was going to be on, they immediately were like, I don't want to be in drama. So for some fucking reason, it seems like I'm the only person not scared of her goddamn fan base, which is false. I am. I'm just cocky because one of my videos got 30k views and now I think I'm hot shit. I'm not. However, let's see how this goes.
Yeah, considering all that I'm going to be covering, I'm not surprised nobody wanted anything to do with this. Any self-respecting commentator would take one look at this thing and back away very slowly. My hunch is that most creators assumed this video would cause a community meltdown and only supported the video, or at least turned a blind eye to its flaws, post-release because it went over well with audiences and didn't provoke Shannon too much. But that's just speculation on my part. Forgive me, but after seeing people like Tobi, Hopeless Peaches, and prison mate Luke self-destruct and be exposed for misrepresenting themselves and others has made me somewhat cynical to the community at large. Tobi gives her thesis statement of the video that over the past 3 months, keep that in mind for later, Shannon has exhibited questionable behavior and done questionable things before playing the song Moral of the Story by Ash over poignant clips for an, admittedly, very well done, dramatic, and eye and ear-catching opening. I have some issues with the song choice, but for now, just keep in mind that it's there. I've seen a lot of people comment on how the Jaclyn Hill situation was none of Shannon's business and that she's a terrible person for talking about it. Why would Jaclyn talk about it? I'm sure it's very traumatizing for her, and frankly, no one's business. This video is bad. Jaclyn annoys me too sometimes, but this is just a result of someone being hateful and having too much time on their hands. I don't have time to get this riled up over a YouTuber. Be better. End quote. I personally find arguments like this irritating and deflective. This is not Shannon talking about a man who is out of the public eye. Jim Ellers was a public figure. All of the information Shannon read aloud was from his website that he and or his associates put forth. She didn't dox him. Shannon reading his website and commenting on it is not inherently hateful. Moderately sized left tuber Maggie Mae Fish released her own video on the subject, Jaclyn Hill, Lipstick and Capitalism, A Love Story, on June 8th, 2019. It came out way before Shannon's, yet all of the issues that people had with Shannon's video, comparing Jaclyn's behavior to her father's, digging into Jaclyn's background and past, and making fun of Jaclyn in general, were all present in Maggie's video as far as being well more detailed and explicit. Maggie used the exact same website that Shannon did as a resource, and yet she didn't get called out for it. If Shannon's video was a sharp jab, then Maggie's video was a sledgehammer to the goddamn kneecaps. Hell, Maggie called Jaclyn a greedy hyper-capitalist in no uncertain terms. Despite this, her video is far better reviewed, with very positive comments, and a much better like-to-dislike ratio compared to Shannon's video. Hell, someone in Maggie's comment section actually brought up the controversy Shannon's video received. Quote, "This topic is back in the zeitgeist thanks to Jaclyn sending her millions of cult members after a small YouTuber, Shannon, for making a video where all she did was read Jaclyn's father's own website. This seems like the perfect time to link this video to everyone who is so concerned about Jaclyn's father's private life and how it shouldn't have any bearing on how we view Jaclyn." End quote. Maggie also hearted this comment, by the way, so, take that as you will. The last few comments left on Jaclyn Hill's dad as a cult leader before Shannon enlisted the video were from people berating her, as the video was posted the same month that Jim Ellers unfortunately passed away. LC, quote, "This video is not showing up on your video list. Had to find the link in a blog. Also, her dad died a few days after this." End quote. Summer Mallet, quote, "I hope you feel terrible for making this video. When you made this, Jaclyn was grieving the death of her father, and you made this about him. Sick and disgusting." End quote. Mackenzie Carey, quote, "I bet you feel pretty shitty making this video the same month that her father died. Something to be proud of, huh?" End quote. Boy! To the three of you, and anyone else who have given Shannon shit over this, you are all both misinformed and complete scumbags. Jaclyn Hill's dad as a cult leader was released March 4th, 2020, and Jim passed away in his sleep on the 20th. This video didn't come out a few days before he passed away, nor did it come out as Jaclyn was grieving the death of her father. He died abruptly in his sleep several weeks afterwards. There is no way Shannon could have known this would happen. And besides, the news wasn't even announced until 3 months later in June on the 21st. Although the website claiming this is sketchy, my previous point does still stand. The idea that Shannon should be shamed for this is absolutely asinine. Do you guys really have to eat Jaclyn's validation pussy so bad that you need to guilt trip someone over like this? Okay, let's get to Tobi's actual points.
Yes, I already know I made a video about this, but shh, okay? Shut up. The video fucking sucked. Sonic Boom level of poo-poo. Now, I've already made a video on this, so I won't go too much into it.
This confuses the hell out of me. Why would you simultaneously complain about how much you hate that previous video, but also say you're not going to discuss the situation very deeply here because that was done previously in the older video that you hate? that you consider flawed and inferior. Why would you want people to go and get their information from a video you don't approve of anymore? Why would you not, rework that video's material here with better wording and structure? That just seems really fucking dumb.
But basically, in the video, Shannon talks about Jaclyn's father, who's not, in her life, and hasn't been for a long time for personal reasons that's none of our fucking business, and how he has some, like, weird evangelical church in Africa or some shit. However, Shannon in the video kind of frames it more as if it's a cult, when it's not a cult. Not saying that it's better or worse, it's not a cult, it's an evangelical church, which, I mean, let's all be fucking real, it's kind of a cult, but it's not, though.
Oh. I want that paragraph to linger. Let the stupidity of it flow into you. This is the dumbest paragraph I have ever seen in a video essay. I felt like my brain was liquefying and dribbling from my ears while listening to it. Let's break down the absolute monumental fuckery we just heard. She talks about him and how he has some weird evangelical church in Africa or some shit. Are you for real? That is horrible wording that makes it look as though you don't have any idea what you're talking about, since you can't be specific. This is even more egregious because Shannon told you what Jim's organization was in her video that she read directly from the website. Here's the piece that she used with all relevant info highlighted. From jimellers.org, quote, Jim was a youth pastor for 6 years in Illinois before God called him into full-time ministry in 1998. The heart of Jim Ellers is about saving souls. It is their desire to take the gospel of Jesus Christ to places where he has not yet been publicly proclaimed. Their evangelical ministry has taken them to many nations. Since 1998, they have seen well over 1 million people born into the kingdom of God. Jim has seen multitudes of people healed both here in America and on the foreign field. Jim has seen crowds of 50 to 150,000 people gather in a single night on their crusades to hear the gospel of Jesus preached to them. In one 5-night crusade alone, they saw over 270,000 people born again. Jim has witnessed tremendous miracle healings in his crusades. This is but a few of the thousands upon thousands of bodily healings that he has witnessed God perform at his crusades around the world and in the USA. In the Khufu Zambia crusade, a woman was brought to the crusade whom had fallen and broken her back. End quote. Tobi, this is basic stuff. This isn't deep lore. The website says it was an evangelical ministry that was making crusades in the third world countries to spread Christianity. The website says crusades a total of 6 times. There's no way you could have missed that. Why didn't you read it out yourself like I just did? Or at the very least show clips of Shannon reading it from her video. Or at the very least just flash the text up on screen. Something. Anything. Shannon frames it as though it's more of a cult, when it's not a cult. I'm not saying it's better or worse, it's not a cult. It's an evangelical ministry. I mean, let's all be fucking real, it's kind of a cult, but it's not, though? Boy, make up your mind. Is it a cult or not? You start off saying, or some shit, so indecisive, then you definitively say it's an evangelical church, then it's kind of a cult, then it's back to not being a cult. You flip-flopped 4 times in a single paragraph. You need to word things clearly and carefully. This is confusingly worded and utterly moronic. And ultimately, you still got it wrong because the focus was on crusades.
And then she goes and crosses a line and says,
This man is the man who put his hoo-ha into someone else to make Jaclyn. So I guess we know where she learned how to bold-face lie online. So much so that she made an entire brand off it. And like him, they both made brands off this. Oh my god, I'm losing it. I am losing it. There's total crackhead energy right now. Jaclyn, despite being apparently estranged from him since about 2012, has never mentioned this.
Oh, I get to have a field day with this one. 1, there's way too little of the video actually shown. There's only roughly 25 seconds of footage used, and not used particularly well. You're willing to include inane ramblings about crackhead energy, but not her discussing the actual point of her video. 2, That second clip? That's why I said Tobi lied by omission. The clip she uses makes Shannon look overreaching and needy, disgusted that Jaclyn didn't make something personal to her public. However, when you listen to the clip in full, we're told a very different story.
This is insane to me, and it's even more insane to me that Jaclyn, despite being apparently estranged from him since about 2012, has never mentioned this. She has talked about her and her family and how they used to travel to Africa, and she traveled so much when she was younger, and she's talked about how they went there like 9 times, but never once has she talked about doing it because her father convinced a group of people in Africa that he was God and could cure them of any disease like AIDS. She never said that, ever. And I wonder why. I wonder if it's like, oh, that man probably taught you to lie. I wonder if that's why she kept it private.
Yeah, amazing what context can do for a quote. Shannon was actually alleging that Jaclyn was open about her family trips to Africa, but left out her father and his ministry. Shannon shows no evidence that Jaclyn discussed these trips, but excluded her father, and honestly, I'm not going to dig through her back catalog to go look for it. That's why I'm using alleging. The implication Shannon is making is that Jaclyn hid this because if her father's past doings were out in the open, people might compare his questionable business dealings with Jaclyn's. Mind you, Shannon's point was not expressed well. She delivered it sarcastically when it needed to be stated more bluntly, her wording is atrocious, and she didn't have the evidence to back up her allegations. But despite that, it's still a far cry from what you portrayed. You intentionally cut context, Tobi. This was not a mistake either, as your previous video does include the full clip. You intentionally misled people to make your point appear stronger. This was incredibly fucking dishonest on your part. Seriously, a few months later you went on to lie about Omnia cutting up DMs between you two, when you actually cut up Shannon's video.
Gee, it's almost as though you've repeatedly proven yourself to be a hypocrite or something.
These comments Shannon made in her video are kind of, very much, over the line and in very poor taste.
You know, for someone who was supposedly a fan of Shannon's, you seem to really not get what the appeal of her content was and still is. Poor taste is her entire brand. She's gaudy, she's tacky, she's blunt, she doesn't care about your feelings. That's the persona she's put on. And as for the hoo-ha to make Jaclyn quote, how is that over the line? You never bother going into it, you don't explain why it's over the line or in poor taste, you just say that it is. I know that you go more in depth into it into the other video, but why would you at the very least give a Cliff Notes version of your reasonings here? Are you saying that it's out of line because Shannon is discussing Jaclyn's parents having sex? I mean, it's gross and it's edgelord, I'll give you that, but, I mean, so what?
And many other people felt the same way. Even a fellow creator friend of mine told me that she'd brought it up to Shannon, saying, hey, what the fuck? What the fuck was that video? Excuse me, that point you made? Excuse you, I'm sorry, what the fuck? And Shannon got very defensive and just straight up kind of just ignored my friend and kind of just brushed her off.
I'm sorry, but this point, while innocuous, is going to take us on a massive fucking tangent. In an earlier version of this script, I just wrote a quick paragraph about how Tobi was using anecdotal evidence to further vilify Shannon. She showed no solid proof that this exchange ever happened, and she named no names. I just wrote about how saying, oh, my friend had a bad experience with her, in and of itself doesn't really prove anything. It isn't objective and really should have been cut. However, we now know who this previously unnamed ex-friend of Shannon's was. That friend was fellow art commentary and storytime YouTuber Hopeless Peaches. It was confirmed by Shannon in her video Hopeless Peaches Needs to Stop, released December 7th, 2020, and doubly confirmed by Tobi herself shortly after on her Instagram stories. Quote, also, just so it's known, Peaches had absolutely no involvement in my CreepShow art video. I asked her if she had experience with CreepShow. I also asked this to 15 other creators who all gave me different sorts of answers that were negative. Hers were just one of many. I was the only person to write the script and work on the video. End quote. Which, quick side note, you contradicted yourself here, Toby. You said that Peaches had no involvement, but then claim you asked for her experience with Shannon. I mean, at the beginning of the video, you even mentioned getting into collaboration with other people.
I ended up trying to get collaboration from a couple of different people about this topic, seeming as a lot of people that I talked to had the same opinions that I did and the same kind of points that I did.
Oh yeah, and there's also the little hiccup that Hopeless Peaches herself confirmed that you got into collaboration with her and that you got into contact with her.
Tobi became friends with me a good while later, and she came to ask me if I could help her with the video on Shannon. Tobi had already made tweets towards Shannon before even starting her video, and came to me on the tail end of making it. I refused to join, as I told her I had already expressed my criticisms with Shannon, and to hope that Tobi was nice in her video, as I believe Shannon is nice herself.
So you are technically correct in that Hopeless Peaches didn't help you make the video. She herself even confirmed that. But you did still reach out to her, you did still talk to her, and you did still use her testimony for your video. So it's incredibly disingenuous to claim that she wasn't involved at all, when, yeah, in some way she was involved. 10 out of 10 brain logic there. Hopeless Peaches is a contested member of the art commentary community at the moment, to say the very fucking least. She's going through her own train wreck of a drama, as many with legitimate or half-legitimate claims have shared their grievances to the public. It's a convoluted mess, and I won't be going into it. All I'll be discussing here are Tobi's claims that Shannon got very defensive and straight up ignored Hopeless Peaches and brushed her off. At the time the Faults of CreepShow art came out, the conversation Tobi's referring to was unknown and had only recently been made public by Shannon herself in Hopeless Peaches Needs to Stop, in order to disprove this narrative that Peaches had been spinning to Tobi and a lot of other creators. That narrative being this.
A few months ago, Shannon made a questionable video on Jaclyn Hill. There is no point discussing it, as she has, from my understanding, since changed her behaviour regarding that stuff, and it would be very unfair to bring that up. It was the criticism I have of her, and if she changed, awesome. Why would I bring that up? But at the time, I came to her, as I did with a few other controversies she was in, to give my opinion and say how she was coming across. Again, it was my personal criticism that I came to her on a situation she seems to have overcome at this point in time. But back then, however, it came across as though although she was being polite, she was being a bit dismissive. Then after we spoke, she made a tweet saying how she will listen to her true friends about criticism of her, and then named a creator who was actively defending her more questionable actions.
Thanks again for continuing the trend of not providing evidence for this claim.
This is the point where I started to feel like I was being fully dismissed, despite coming to her as a friend. And it felt like a slap in the face.
Here are the DMs in full, all having taken place on March 5th, 2020 from 6:02 a.m. to 6:45 a.m. Also, keep in mind, I am restructuring them slightly. Some of the DMs were clearly delivered and arrived at delayed times, so some of the conversation is kind of off. I put everything back into its proper order, so my transcript is going to be different than the physical screenshots. I did so to make the conversation a little easier to understand. Keep that in mind. Peaches. Hey, Shannon. Shannon. Sup, lovely. Peaches. How are you, my homie? Shannon. I'm good. Just working on a secret project and drawing. How are you? How are you feeling? Are you doing better? How's your living situation? Peaches. Meh, same old. I saw your little kerfuffle on Twitter. You have bad luck, my girl. Shannon. It's not too bad. Most people just disagree with some jokes I made in the Jaclyn Hill video. Some of them think talking about how her father is a public figure as well, for shady reasons, isn't okay. Seriously though, it hasn't been that bad. The only weird thing is people being two-faced about it. Like, someone DM'd me saying how they loved the video and it was so funny, and then publicly said it was terrible. Peaches. Heck, lol. Yeah, being two-faced isn't the best policy, SMH. Shannon. Which I don't get, because you can not agree with me and it's cool. Like, that happens all the time because I'm an opinionated piece of trash. but it's weird to lie. And straight up, I have no issue with people disagreeing with me or taking issue with my jokes. However, I stand by my actions because literally all I did was talk about what this public figure does, read his website, and said it's weird. Peaches. Can I maybe say my opinion on the video? Shannon. Of course. Peaches. Yeah, I won't lie, I'm not a fan of the video. I saw it and the issues around it, and it came off as quite abrasive and bullyish. Shannon. For sure. Peaches. I think maybe the issue is that you keep your aggressiveness and sass, which isn't a bad thing, but you make videos in haste, so it can murk things quite easily. Shannon. I feel that. Peaches. Priming is a good example. He has a personality that turns me off as he is a sass boy to the T, but takes his time on videos so he can make distinctions between sass and facts. I get confused by the motivation behind your videos sometimes. Oof. Shannon. My thing is that, honestly, this is gonna sound bitchy, but if I'm talking about Jaclyn Hill or someone like her father who is falsely saying he can cure AIDS, I feel like the bitchiness is fine. Because 1, Jim is a liar and taking money from people in poverty, and 2, Jaclyn has actively endangered the lives of her fans multiple times, including right now, as by not disclosing the ingredients in her palettes, she enabled a company to give her customers skin rashes due to allergies. And literally the only reason I make my videos is because I think they're funny. Nothing more, nothing less. Like I said in my video about Jaclyn, I made that video because finding out that info is bonkers, and I wanted people to know about it. I stand by that because it's bonkers. Peaches. I feel that. I'm wondering if you could maybe script those videos so it can distinguish some of that murky ground. I saw some of your comparison jokes to be said in the same way you were dealing facts when one could argue Jaclyn's dad is the reason she's so messed up. I just don't want to see your channel look quite bully-like, as a lot of jokes in your PK Russell video were calling people like me and others stupid. Again, that wasn't the intention, but I feel like you and I take ownership of that. Again, it sucks that you're questioning why I make my videos when I feel like it's always been the same thing, of me making something because I find it interesting or think it's weird. All the videos I've made have been like that, and they're still going to be like that. The biggest thing here is that if I make a joke that's super clearly a joke and people take it literally, I can't exactly super help that, which is happening now. Also, if I'm talking about a person who is related to another person and they're both public figures and both have done shitty things, I'm not exactly going to be upset about it, you know? Peaches. I get that. I just wanted to tell you so you can see what it could be portrayed like, because I know you mean no harm or anything, but some outsiders may not see the same. Shannon. And I know, but frankly, what others think isn't necessarily my business, because I know why I make things, and therefore I can defend them. If I ever do something that I can't defend, like how I hurt you in manga comment before, I apologize. In this case, I'm not doing that, apologizing for the Jaclyn Hill situation. Peaches. I just wanted to say how it can look due to the rush your videos come out in sometimes. I don't expect you to apologize for the Jaclyn Hill situation, because, I don't know, it's a very gray area. Shannon. To me, it's not a gray area. I understand the other side, where people say not to bring a family into this, but it's not the same as if, say, I called you out and then brought a cousin of yours into it. Because Jaclyn and her father are 2 public figures, and Jim's shady shit is literally featured on Jaclyn's Wikipedia page. It's not that bonkers to call them out. So, let's break this down. These screenshots do not support Hopeless Peach's framing of the situation. This conversation is incredibly mundane. Peaches comes to Shannon with concern about how she portrayed Jaclyn and her father and their relationship in the video and gives her side. Shannon gives her side as well. There's some back and forth. They agree to disagree. Where in this conversation did Shannon brush Peaches off? The only thing I can assume Tobi meant when she said Hopeless Peaches felt as though Shannon was defensive, ignored her, brushed her off, is that Shannon firmly explained her side and didn't back down. She didn't agree with Peaches' criticism and expressed as such. That doesn't automatically mean that Shannon was treating you poorly, it just means she doesn't agree with you on something. Shannon actually states multiple times that it's okay. She's okay if Peaches and members of her audience in general don't like the video or what she said in it. Now, I will admit, Shannon does come off pretty snippy here and there. The phrase, "it sucks that you are questioning why I make my videos," doesn't sit well with me, and I think that was rather rude of Shannon to say. Still, it's far from the passive-aggressive salt-fest Peaches portrayed it as. And the real kicker here? Shannon was never the one who brushed Peaches off. Peaches was the one who brushed Shannon off and did so in a very extreme and inappropriate way. Hopeless Peaches soft-blocked Shannon on Twitter, i.e. blocked and unblocked her so as Shannon would no longer be following her, and went on to tweet the following. Hopeless Peaches at HopelessPeachYT, March 5th. Quote, "I won't lie, I've been quite disappointed by a few people I looked up to a lot online lately, and now I feel physically kinda sick. May take a break from social media for a while. It's like a broken heart right now." Hopeless Peaches at HopelessPeachYT, March 6th. "I've gone ahead and muted some accounts I needed muting for my own mental health. Was literally shaking in anger and sadness yesterday, near tears talking to my boyfriend about stuff going on, or those upsetting me. I'm just gonna put my head down and work till I cool off." End quote. Peaches doesn't deny this happening either. She explains so in her response video to CreepShow Art and prison mate Luke.
So yeah, even though it was very reactionary, I soft-blocked Shannon. And I was just upset. I was upset that somebody who I looked up to, a friend of mine who I looked up to, was making content that seemed to have been hurting people. I spoke to my friend about it, and I did stupidly subtweet her. I do apologise for that, as it was uncalled for. Definitely uncalled for. I accept that.
I think that the reaction is highly inappropriate considering what the DMs actually contained. Like, it's not that bad, Peaches. What the fuck? Again, there is way more to the drama, none of which I'm going into here. If you're interested in the drama, I recommend Spoctor's video as well as Malice and Macaroon's 2 videos on the subject. Malice in particular has some spicy and much needed takes and skepticism of certain people's claims. Impersonate Luke! What I will say, however, is that Hopeless Peach's word is garbage, and so is Tobi's. So to reiterate, I'm not holding this point against Tobi, as she, like the rest of us, was unaware of how the conversation actually went down, and it would be unfair to criticize her for believing what she was told by a close friend at the time.
At the end of it all, seeing Shannon handle things in a very poor and childishly defensive way was a bit disheartening and made me feel a little disappointed, to be completely honest. She would lash out at people tweeting against her and that didn't have the same opinion as her.
None of which you show. Actually, the only evidence you show throughout this entire section is roughly 25 seconds of cut-up footage from Shannon's video. Your word is unreliable. There is no way I'm going to believe that A, these tweets existed at all, or B, that they said what you claim they did without proof. I shouldn't have to disengage myself from your video to double-check your own claims. That should be your job, to provide the necessary evidence to support your claims. To further fuck this situation up the ass, Shannon nuked her Twitter after fellow YouTuber without a crystal ball doxed her. Another unrelated situation I'm not covering with a 10-foot pole. So any proof that we may have had is now gone. That's why it's important to show and back up evidence like this. You know, in case it gets deleted. Why should I believe Shannon said boo without any evidence to back it up, especially from you of all people? Shannon has spoken about the situation herself, and her side of the story contradicts yours. In her video, the Anti-Vax Defender ASMR channel, Karuna Satori, Shannon brings up the Jaclyn Hill situation as it overlaps with that drama as well. Trust me, it is going to be absolutely coconuts when we get there. During which she says this.
Despite people saying I was getting a lot of hate, it wasn't all that much. I know a lot of people tweeted that I should be prepared for a lot of hate, and I know there was like some people like, oh, you crossed the line, but I got a total of 7 DMs telling me to take the video down and that I'm an asshole and I'm a bully, but like that's 7 DMs, so I wasn't like drowning in it. I honestly expected more, and I don't understand why there wasn't more, so if you want, feel free to send me hate on Twitter.
So, question. If Shannon was so quick to victimize herself, if she had such an issue with people criticizing her and was so defensive, why would she say this? She clearly differentiates between people criticizing her, people saying she crossed the line and so on, and actual hate, people mocking her, calling her an asshole, demanding the video be taken down. If Shannon was so convinced everyone was ganging up on her, why would she then express genuine confusion at the lack of hate and say she didn't feel threatened? It gives perspective to her side of things that any reply she made to people criticizing her was intended as a debate rather than lashing out or being mindlessly defensive. Granted, this is Shannon's word against Tobi's with no evidence to back it up. She could be hyping herself up and pretending to be more composed than she actually was. But if there's evidence that proves Shannon was indeed lashing out and being defensive and proves her statement to be a lie, Tobi should have fucking shown it.
She would lash out at people tweeting against her and that didn't have the same opinion as her and came off very, very... Alright, whatever. I made a video about it because I was pissy about it, okay?
So, you admit your video was born out of spite. Because you were pissy. Giving the ball away a bit early, aren't we? So, since she's been hyping this other video up so much, let's get into that, shall we? Yep, be excited! Double feature! We're getting 2 Tobi videos for the price of 1! Be afraid. Be very afraid. So, when Tobi said this video was a hot mess, she was not kidding. This video is very, very bad. Like, she's bad enough with a script, and without one, she's barely intelligible. If I was to pick apart every bad point in this video, we'd be here all day. So, for the sake of things, I'm only going to be covering what I think is the most relevant. Also, there's going to be a lot of jarring cuts throughout the section. Tobi is very unfocused without a script and tends to trail off or ramble or go for stretches of time without saying anything. There's a lot of bull in this video that I'm just skipping over. If there's stuff that I've omitted, it's because I either don't think it's relevant or important or is unrelated to what I'm talking about, or I legitimately don't understand what she's trying to get at. A lot of the edits are just me cutting around the extraneous ramblings. I'm linking the video, which is still up on her channel, in the description and in my resources for full transparency, so you can be sure that I'm not misrepresenting her.
However, in my feed recently, I saw that she had made a video, somebody retweeted it, about Jaclyn Hill's dad being a cult leader. And I'm like, my initial reaction was, huh, okay. And then I kept scrolling because I didn't care. Because, look, okay, so like... Look, guys, look, okay, I don't care, okay, Jaclyn Glenn, that whole situation, I don't care. She picked a bad lab that she didn't know that was shitty. She made a bad decision, and then she fucking was told probably false information by her team that they were probably lying or whatever, and then she tried to play it up, and then she fucking just, it was just a big shit show. She tried to backtrack. I just think she did a lot of things wrong, but I don't think she had bad intentions, to be completely fucking honest. And also, at the end of the day, who fucking cares? It's fucking hairy lipstick, okay? Like who cares? I don't care. I don't want to watch another fucking Jaclyn Hill video. I literally don't fucking care.
So, I had to wait for 7.5 minutes before she actually got to the point of the video, and have some interjections. 1, if you don't care about what was going on, admit you don't care about what's going on, then why are you talking about what's going on? Why would you criticize Shannon and defend Jaclyn from the drama surrounding her as though you actually care if you don't? 2, Jaclyn picking a bad lab out of incompetence and being misinformed by her team is complete speculation on your part based on nothing. I searched around and wasn't able to find anything about her company, period, let alone its inner workings and policies, so we can't really say whether this was done out of naivete and incompetence or cynical malice. I mean, if anybody has a resource, hit me up, I'd love to see it. 3, are you insane? It's hairy lipstick, okay? Who cares? For one, it wasn't just hairy lipsticks. Maggie Mae Fish thoroughly explained the situation in her video, Jaclyn Hill, Lipstick and Capitalism, A Love Story, saying,
"Recently, I've been fascinated by Jaclyn Hill and Lipstick Gate, wherein makeup YouTuber Jaclyn Hill released a line of lipsticks that were hairy, moldy, had bits of plastic.
Oh my god, is this plastic? No.
And even pieces of metal.
That's definitely metal.
And a chemist recently came forward in a YouTube video stating that she believes that she may have found mouse hair in one of her lipstick samples.
I believe that the hairs that I found are not all synthetic, but I do believe that I found some that came from an animal.
And denied that anything was wrong.
Every single ingredient in my lipstick is new and it is FDA approved.
It literally looks like a toenail.
FDA approved.
If these major contaminants ended up in the lipstick, there's no telling what kind of bacteria could have ended up in there as well. If someone used one of those lipsticks and was cut by a stray shard of metal or sliver of plastic, they could have potentially gotten an infection from God knows what kind of bacteria breeding in them. And some people were physically harmed by the lipsticks. Several people who used the lipsticks had allergic reactions and developed lumps akin to cold sores that had to be looked at by dermatologists. As an aside, Shannon also brought this up in her video, but she framed it as people were going to the hospital, like, and she was framing it in a way that it was like, these people are going to the ER, and it's like, no, like, dermatologists are doctors. Like, yeah, you'd have to make an appointment and go see your doctor for that, but it's not rush to the ER level shit like she framed it as. You know, that was a lot of embellishment on her part. I'm really glad, really glad that nobody brought that up. And besides the legitimately harmful contaminants and allergic reactions, the lipsticks were just shit quality in general. Some of them melted in their boxes, some crumbled or broke on first use, and any of them with fuzz would smear and deform due to the particles shifting around in the lipstick. And to top it all off, they were super fucking expensive. An influencer, Raw Beauty Christie, bought the full collection and it cost her $333.10 in total. The idea that people should have just kept their mouths shut and silently eaten the cost because you personally were tired of hearing about it? How fucking entitled are you? This isn't the first time that Jaclyn has made questionable business decisions either.
3 years ago, Jaclyn Hill created a custom highlighter with Becca Cosmetics that she marketed as a limited edition, meaning as soon as they sold out, there'd be no more. But after they sold out, it was restocked in stores only a few months later. And a few months after that, it was literally added to their permanent collection. This is known as artificial scarcity, when a company pretends that there is a limited amount of a product to make it seem more exclusive and valuable. Jaclyn Hill is not the only person who does this in the makeup industry, and it's fairly common in capitalism. Jaclyn just happens to be a repeat offender, meaning that we can probably assume that she's doing it knowingly and not just as a mistake. Then, about a year ago, Jaclyn released a palette of eyeshadows called The Vault, which were all leftover shadows that she didn't put in her original palette with Morphe.
So if you like this palette, it's the same thing, just different colors.
The Vault was old, unused product thrown together haphazardly to make a profit. And lo and behold, it was bad.
Very basic. I expected a little more from it. I did.
The formula felt terrible and beauty gurus hated it.
Do I think that it was not good? Of course. You saw the trouble that I was dealing with on camera. You saw how much of that green I put on. It's completely gone.
So Jaclyn was like, oh my god, you know what? These reviews were so bad that Morphe decided to redo all of the palettes.
I am dedicated to swatching these vaults and figuring out the issue.
So that's great, problem solved. Morphe told their customers that they fixed the palettes, except, well, from all accounts, that didn't happen. When it was re-released, people had the exact same problem.
We're going to be doing one eye with the old formula, the other eye with the new formula. Are any of these honestly looks because they're all coming out really bad and I'm not really happy with them?
Leading many to believe that they had lied, simply because Morphe would rather repackage flawed product and sell it anyways, instead of throwing away thousands of palettes that they had already made.
And this isn't even close to being all of it.
Money, baby.
So yeah, people's issues with Jaclyn and her products are not a new thing, nor unfounded. Lipstickgate was just the worst in a long line of shitty business practices Jaclyn and her collaborators were pulling on their customers. So, Tobi, unless you're willing to spend ungodly amounts of money to put unknown fuzz, mold, plastic chunks, and shards of metal against your lips and love it, shut your fucking mouth!
Who put his hoo-ha into someone else to make Jaclyn. So I guess we know where she learned how to bold-face lie online. So much so that she made an entire brand off it. And like him, like they both made brands off this.
First criticism that the backlash was this part of, obviously, and she actually says it later on, and I'll just say it now. Jaclyn has put, it says it in her wiki, but she's also retweeted to this video stating this as well. She's been estranged from her father for about 10 or so years, and the way that she talks about it and the fact that she's never really talked about him obviously probably means you're not very fond of this person. It's not somebody that you like to talk about, whether it's a sensitive subject or not. It's not for us to decide, as it's none of our fucking business at all what it is, with what kind of relationship she has with her father in detail, obviously. But all we know is that she does not like her father. She is probably very against what he does, because he said that that's where she learned how to bold-faced lie. And I think she was just saying it as a passing comment, but once again, it was too far of a thing, considering their relationship. It's not okay to say that. Number two, the fact that we don't know anything. You don't know anything about her dad except from that one article that could be written by who fucking knows who. We don't even know how true it could be.
Tobi, it was a joke. It was a fucking joke. I know this is very difficult for you and the rest of the internet to understand, but it was a joke. It was a shitty and unfunny joke, I'll give you that, but a joke nonetheless. For anyone out there dumb enough to need it spelled out for them, let me lay it out on you. The joke is that Jim is a liar, and when he had a child with Jaclyn's mother, his lying tendencies were passed down to Jaclyn, who, in turn, built up her brand off of falsehoods. That, in and of itself, is an absurd notion. Why, lying is an inherited trait? Oh, you jest! Do people just not understand what words and tone mean? Are people really this fucking clueless? This joke is stupid, and it should have been cut, but it's not this massive moral dilemma, an attack on Jaclyn's character like people seem to think it is. How the hell did any of you look at this and think, oh yeah, no, she's being totally literal, guys? Also, we don't know anything about Jaclyn's dad, huh? Well, it's not entirely true. Maggie did some digging in her own video, and she has a lot to show for it. Let's take a gander at what is available online publicly about Jaclyn's father and the rabbit hole that takes us down.
After poking around on the internet, I came across this story from 2002. It's about Jaclyn's father, Jim, who was a farmer, then became a preacher. Pretty early in the article, it mentions that Jim worked the earth raising corn, hogs, and soybeans on a 700-acre farm. So Jaclyn wasn't raised on some small family farm, but a commercial farm. After more internet sleuthing, in another article, this time from Quad City Times in 2001, I learned that Jaclyn's father owned one of the largest hog farms in his area of Illinois, producing 2,000 to 3,000 hogs every year. That's a lot of hogs! Also, he was a fourth-generation owner, which means that he didn't build his business from scratch, he inherited it. As someone who comes from a farming community, I can say that kind of land and that kind of livestock inventory, you're probably doing fine. The reason Jaclyn's dad left hog farming is because in 1997, his car was hit by a truck, breaking both of his legs, leading him to receive over $4 million in insurance money. I just want to say that again, $4 million. So he went from being one of the most successful hog farmers in that part of Illinois to also being the recipient of a massive cash payout. My point here is not to belittle the pain of being in a terrible car crash or how traumatic it probably was for Jaclyn as a child to see her dad go through that. It's to highlight the totally not rags to riches nature of Jaclyn's upbringing. As a result of the crash and insurance settlement, Jaclyn's dad got the call from God and became an evangelical preacher, traveling to remote villages in Africa and China to spread the gospel. According to him, some of the places we go aren't even on the map. The safest place in the world is right where God tells you to be. His group, called International Harvest Ministries, was essentially made up of 6 people, which was basically Jaclyn's family. Her dad, her mom, her brother Nicholas, Nicholas's wife, Jaclyn's sister Rachel, and Jaclyn herself. So we've got a Christian nonprofit taking donations, which do not have to be reported on their taxes, because religious nonprofits are exempt from reporting donations. Eventually, Jaclyn's mom and dad got divorced in 2012. Then Jaclyn goes through controversy after controversy on YouTube. And on July 22nd, 2018, Jaclyn starts a nonprofit corporation called Lions and Lipsticks Incorporated, which is a Christian nonprofit exempt from reporting taxes. And the people listed as directors of the corporation are Jaclyn Hill and her brother Nicholas, her sister Rachel, and her mother Robin. It's literally the same family members minus her dad involved in the same sort of fishy nonprofit that her dad set up. Based on everything we know about Jaclyn, her pattern of lying, of manipulating her audience, of giving excuses for absolutely everything, based on all of that, is there some kind of conclusion we can draw about why she would start a nonprofit that can take as many cash donations as it wants without ever reporting a cent to the IRS?
So, yeah. To quote Shannon, I wonder why she kept it private.
With evangelical churches, there's two kinds of people, okay? There are sociopaths who blatantly lie to people knowing that these people are stupid. That's how they think in their mind, that all these fucking stupid people are dumb and they're giving me money, ha ha ha, you think I healed you, but it's actually just a big stage act. Her father could either be a sociopath who is lying and who knows, who doesn't care, or he's crazy and he thinks he's actually doing this. Either way, it's not relevant because you're trying to put him doing all this shit compared to her making a bunch of hairy lipsticks. The difference is intention. Okay? Intention is very different. Now, let's go with the narrative that the dad he's aware of all this. He knows it's all bullshit. He just doesn't fucking care. With religious leaders who tend to be like that, number one, a lot of them tend to be sociopaths. And then also, they don't have empathy. They don't fucking care. But with Jaclyn, I really think people give her more hate than it's deserved. I literally think that she just fucks up a lot. She just makes a lot of very dumb choices. I really do think at some level she actually does care, though. But I do think that she just makes a lot of very stupid choices, very misguided, hiccups and shit that lead her to this point. And people are like, but every time I'm like, yeah, some people are just that dumb.
My issue with everything just said is that it's entirely based off speculation. Tobi's correct when she says we know very little about Jaclyn's life except for what she chooses to make public, and because of that, we're working completely in the dark as to what Jaclyn's current motivations are and what her late father's motivations were. Is Jaclyn Hill a well-meaning dumbass being manipulated by her staff, or is she a shrewd businesswoman who holds profits higher than the safety or satisfaction of her own customers? We don't know. Was Jim Ellers a well-meaning religious fanatic who genuinely believed everything his website said, or was he a scam artist who knew he was selling a bunch of bullshit to get donations? We don't know. But, while we can't make assumptions of their character, i.e. them as people, we can look at their actions, and their actions are very telling. Jim Ellers wrote about impossible miracles of healing being performed by God thanks to his crusades and was asking for donations to go towards said impossible feats, and Jaclyn sold a bunch of products to her fans that she promised were premium quality when they were, in fact, garbage. In both cases, money was being taken for a false positive, be they miracles from heaven to be performed on sick Africans, or shit-quality makeup. This is the connection Shannon was trying to make, though I will concede she didn't do it well.
This is insane to me, and it's even more insane to me that Jaclyn, despite being apparently estranged from him since about 2012, has never mentioned this. She has talked about her and her family and how they used to travel to Africa, and she traveled so much when she was younger, and she's talked about how they went there like 9 times, but never once has she talked about doing it because her father convinced a group of people in Africa that he was God and could cure them of any disease like AIDS. She never said that, ever. And I wonder why. I wonder if it's like, oh, that man probably taught you to lie. I wonder if that's why she kept it private. Anyway, I'm tired.
The whole statement, I'm sitting here literally going, why? I don't understand what's your question. I don't understand what you don't understand from this. Why she doesn't want to talk about, why she didn't mention her father who has this evangelical fucking shit going on in Africa or whatever. Maybe because since she's estranged from her father, estranged meaning she does not love him, she has mixed mixed or negative feelings about him for personal reasons that is none of our business unless she makes it public.
You're missing what she's actually getting at. I already discussed this in the previous section, but I'll repeat it for the people in the back. Shannon is not saying that Jaclyn needs to air all of her dirty laundry, all of her negative familial experiences to her audience. Shannon's alleging that Jaclyn was leaving context out of these stories for, on a surface glance, no real reason. Even if Jaclyn didn't like her father, it doesn't make sense she'd cut him and the motivations for going on these trips from the stories about going on the trips. The implication Shannon is making is that Jaclyn hid this because if her father's past doings were out in the open, people might compare his questionable business dealings to hers. Again, Shannon shows no evidence of this, and honestly, I'm not going to dig through Jaclyn's back catalog to look for it. That's why I used alleging. Shannon's point was not expressed well. It was delivered sarcastically when it needed to be stated more bluntly, and the wording is atrocious, but it's still far different than your interpretation of it.
You said put his hoo-ha in somebody, right? Meaning that she also has a different party, aka her mother, who she is very close with. Don't you think that, if anything, the kind of things that she would pick up from somebody is a parent that she respects, that she loves, and that's been with her through her entire life versus someone she probably didn't have a close relationship with for obvious fucking reasons? And by the way, this happened in 2012. Obviously, shit doesn't just fucking happen out of nowhere. It builds up over time. You don't just fucking turn around and just hate your parent because of like one thing, because they got a divorce. No, you hate them. Like, I know some kids do, but like in this situation, obviously she has never mentioned him. She does not talk about him. Nothing. Obviously shit's been going on before 2012.
Tobi never mentions what age Jaclyn was when her parents got divorced, and for a point I'll get into later, that information is crucial. So, I decided to check out Jaclyn's Wikipedia page. The section didn't have any specifics regarding the divorce, but it did have a citation. That citation is for a 2015 video called Q&A, Marriage, Kids, Divorce, Food. The video is, well, a Q&A where Jaclyn answers personal questions sent to her via Twitter. Many people asked about her father and if she still had contact with him, to which she replied with this.
Someone asked if I had contact with my father, and no, I don't have contact with him at all, in any way whatsoever. I don't have contact with him. My parents, like I have said, they went through a divorce, a really horrible, ugly, nasty divorce years ago. The divorce was finalized. When was it finalized? I feel like it was like 3 years ago, maybe 2.5 years ago. The divorce was finalized, and I have not talked to him since. I haven't talked to him in like 2.5 to 3 years. So that's one. I have like a couple subjects of things that I've gone through in the past few years that are extremely touchy, and that's one of them. Like, I have a very, very big heart now, though, for people who go through horrible divorces, for people who, you know, are stolen from or taken from, or people who have like lost their father, whether it's to death, whether it's a divorce, no matter what it is. Like, it's giving me a really huge heart for those type of people, because I never in a million years thought that I would lose my dad. I never in a million years thought that my parents would get a divorce. I felt so bad for every one of my friends who had divorced parents. I just felt like, oh my God, that's so heartbreaking that like their parents live in 2 different homes now. Like, I never thought that would be me. So my parents' divorce was definitely humbling, brought me down to earth, but showed me what a queen my mom was, and showed me what a my father was. So yeah, I no longer have contact with him. None of us do. It sucks because he was definitely my hero. Oh my God, I'm not going to cry. But we were very, very close. We would all call our family the dream team because we were all so close growing up, and I'm so thankful for that. My dad was my very best friend. We have a lot of similarities. Yeah, so extremely, extremely close. So to have him do what he did and kind of turn on us, and the divorce was just, it was heartbreaking. So it sucks. It's a really sensitive subject, but it sucks, and he's no longer around. So that's that.
When I watched this video, my jaw hit the fucking floor. Tobi didn't actually bother to double check her assumptions and, as a result, is speculating based off her lack of knowledge. Jaclyn's video makes huge portions of Tobi's irrelevant. Don't you think that, if anything, the kind of things Jaclyn would pick up from somebody would be from the parent she respects and loves and has been with her entire life versus someone she didn't have a close relationship with for obvious fucking reasons? Based on Jaclyn's framing of the situation in the video, the divorce was a fairly recent thing at the time the Q&A was posted, only a handful of years old at the time. According to Google, the average length it takes to complete a divorce is 11 months or 18 months if taken to court. Jaclyn says the divorce was messy, so it may have been longer in her case. She mentions in the Q&A that, at time of recording, she was 24. So, in 2012, when her parents officially divorced, she would be 22-21. Even if it was a several-year-long divorce, Jaclyn still would have been an older teenager and, potentially, have already moved out by the time the turmoil that led to the divorce started. Based on Jaclyn saying she was very close with her parents as a child and her discussing the divorce as though it were a recent event, it can be inferred that Jaclyn was with her father the entirety of her growing up. Children are little sponges who absorb everything around them as a part of their development, and, as I just went over, Jaclyn was potentially with her father all throughout that development. Growing up into adulthood with this man, it's entirely within reason that Jaclyn could have picked up certain bad habits or mindsets from him. Since Tobi wants to theorize that Jim was potentially abusive, let's say that, for the sake of argument, he was a complete asshat who treated Jaclyn very poorly growing up. My previous point still stands. We are shaped by the people around us and our experiences with them, good or bad. It's not as though we only take in habits and worldviews from nice people. If that were the case, children of an abusive or addictive parent wouldn't be at risk for perpetuating the cycle of abuse and addiction since, by your logic, they would only take in positive traits from positive people in their lives. You don't suddenly turn around and hate your parents because of one thing like a divorce. Well, clearly that was the case for Jaclyn. She says that pre-divorce she had a good relationship with her father and only lost the desire to associate with him when he turned on the family. The divorce, Jim officially wanting to legally separate from the family, is what hurt her. Even before my double check leading me to the Q&A, your claim sounded wrong, so I googled effects divorce has on children and teens, and immediately found 4 websites that explained how divorce affects children of various ages. Very Well Family, for example, stated the following, quote, "Young children often struggle to understand why they must go between 2 homes. They may worry that if their parents can stop loving one another, that someday their parents may stop loving them. Grade school children may worry that the divorce is their fault. They may fear they misbehaved, or they may assume they did something wrong, and teenagers may become quite angry about a divorce and the changes it creates. They may blame one parent for the dissolution of the marriage, or they may resent one or both parents for the upheaval in the family." End quote. There is no reason you couldn't have double-checked this assumption. And in any case, it doesn't even fucking matter because you contradict yourself literally in the same sentence saying, "I mean, some kids do," thereby debunking your own point. Obviously, shit's been going on before 2012. Based on what? We already discussed that the divorce was what severed Jaclyn's connection with her father and that they had a good relationship previously. What is there to suggest that there was anything else going on? Again, Jaclyn may have explained this at some point in some video, but I'm not dredging through her whole channel to find it. That should have been your job, Tobi, as the one making the claims. Now, Maggie Mayfish does bring up in her video that
Jaclyn has mentioned that she is not close to her father, and there seem to have been undertones of financial abuse in that relationship.
But that's Maggie going off undertones that may or may not have even been present to begin with. And in any case, you don't bring it up. You show no evidence to back up this claim, so why should I take it seriously? To be clear, much of my rebuttal is founded off speculation as well, based on the information present in the Q&A video. I want to make it clear that I could totally be wrong. We don't have the details of this situation, and I do agree with Tobi when she says we're not entitled to that information. The point is, however, that Tobi's speculation can be written off by Jaclyn's own testimony. People have been countering Shannon's speculations about Jaclyn's life with speculations of their own. This is inexcusable. I should not be able to debunk a good-sized portion of your video simply by going to Jaclyn's fucking Wikipedia page, something that you yourself brought up previously. Your video has an entire comment section filled with people cheering you on for sticking it to Shannon, when in actuality, you are just as complacent, lazy with your research, and speculative as she is. The confirmation bias in this situation is staggering.
This is where we get into my main issue with how this was handled, how this played out, especially on Shannon CreepShow's end. This is the main reason why I'm angry. Now, if this whole thing happened and she felt like people thought it was too far, she like apologized, hey guys, like I'm really sorry that I made that point. I'm sorry you guys felt like that, blah, blah, blah. I would not have a problem right now at all. I'd be like, okay, like whatever, who cares? My problem throughout this whole thing, the online responses, it seemed like CreepShow didn't really grasp exactly why people were angry, even though many people, I think a lot of people, I think she might have gotten, I don't want to say confused because that's a little insulting to say that. I think maybe she read a lot of responses and got an idea of when people would say stuff like, oh, bringing family into it is going too far, whatever. And I think maybe she formed her like argument, like her defense through those, even though the majority of the messages and the comments and the tweets were about the fact that you were comparing them so closely when it has been already pre-established that Jaclyn does not have a good relationship with her father.
I have explained ad nauseum as to why the comparing them so closely argument is stupid, so I'm skipping it. As for Shannon lashing out at people criticizing her, it's like the other video. You don't show any proof, so I don't fucking care. I know you can clip things from Twitter. You were able to display a collage of tweets opposing Shannon's video just fine, but you can't get more than 2 reactions from Shannon herself. Reactions I agree with, by the way. Mountain Dew sent me PR at SM CreepShow, March 4th, 2020. Gotta be honest, but if anyone famous or not has a father that says he publicly cured AIDS by touching someone or speaking to them, I'm talking about it. I don't really give a fuck, because what that person did publicly is fucked. End quote. Mountain Dew sent me PR at SM CreepShow, March 4th, 2020. Here's the thing. I talk about Jaclyn in the video for like 5 seconds because, to me, it's weird. It would be weird if my father or any YouTuber's father was doing this publicly, regardless of where their relationship stands or not. Like, it's a weird-ass thing, so I talked about it. End quote. Oh yeah, and Shannon also made this statement in the Anti-Vax Defender ASMR channel, Karuna Satori, which, summarizes everything perfectly, and I almost 100% agree with.
But then, oh god then, the Jaclyn Hill situation happened. And if you weren't on Twitter, you probably have no idea what I'm talking about, because the video itself didn't actually get that much hate. You see, my video talking about public information that has been talked about by other YouTubers, like Maggie Mayfish and FastWeb, not to mention countless others, about how Jaclyn Hill's father is a fucking scam artist who says he can cure AIDS, caused a little bit of a stir on Twitter, simply because Jaclyn Hill retweeted it and said it was disgusting and an invasion of her privacy, which, I don't know, makes literally no sense if you watch the video, because I literally read this grown-ass man's public website and say, wow, this shit is weird, and only related to her, as this is so weird that this is her father, who also is known for scamming people by selling falsehoods publicly the way Jaclyn is currently doing, because she's currently doing that right now with her palette formulas that cause allergic reactions and have caused a woman to have a severe allergic reaction that she needed to be in the hospital. If me reading publicly available information that has been discussed online countless times before is somehow bad only when I do it, only when she's trying to avert gaze for what she's doing that's wrong, then frankly, my dude, I don't give a damn. I could not get paid enough to give a shit. Because if you are going to say that I am a bully for doing that, then your bully bar is way too low. That's a blatant deflection, and it's also dumb as hell.
And as for the tweets you flash on screen, I have major issues with some of them. Several of the tweets you show actually make the controversy surrounding this video look all the dumber. Hufflepuff Stan to the 7th power at Stan Hufflepuff, March 5th, 2020, replying to at SM CreepShow. Quote, I think it's because Jaclyn doesn't want to associate herself with her father, and for you to put that out there, that he's her dad, you knew Jaclyn in the thumbnail would get you views. You could have talked about this without mentioning Jaclyn a lot or putting her face in the thumbnail, end quote. Irene Hogan at Irene BSY Hogan. March 5th, 2020, replying to @SMCreepShow. You say you only talked about Jaclyn for 5 seconds and that it's all about her dad, but then you have to put her in the thumbnail and her name in the title? If he's done something completely bad, why would you bring his daughter into it if she's completely unrelated to the situation? End quote. Oh my ever-loving Christ, are you kidding me? Shannon put Jaclyn in the thumbnail because people would see her, see that it's her father, be intrigued, and watch the video. That's how creating content on YouTube works. You make eye-catching thumbnails and video titles. The absolute fucking horror. Maggie Mae Fish also used Jaclyn in the thumbnail and title of her video, yet was untouched, even in spite of her also talking about Jaclyn's past, her father, and the connections between them. Why is it such a crime for Shannon to bring up Jaclyn when it's her father being discussed? It is a fact. And it's because he was her father that Shannon felt compelled to talk about it to begin with. There's nothing inherently interesting about some random evangelical crackpot from years ago raving about how he helped heal the sick in Africa with the word of Jesus all by itself. It's only interesting in that it's someone with a connection to someone famous like Jaclyn. And let's be perfectly honest with ourselves. If this exact same situation was surrounding the parent of someone universally hated, like the Paul brothers for example, no one would give a shit. If anything, Twitter would be cheering Shannon on and would be happily spinning the "they learned their bad behavior from this family member" narrative themselves. But if you thought those were stupid, get a load of this interaction. Philosopher Stoned @SmollyWifey, March 5th, 2020, replying to @SMCreepShow. TBH, I kind of agree with Jaclyn. You associated her with her father without knowing where their relationship stands. She didn't have to say she disowned him. Not everything has to be public. You could have talked about him like you wanted, but you used her name for clicks. Mountain Dew sent me PR @SMCreepShow, March 5th, 2020. Here's the thing, I talk about Jaclyn in the video for like 5 seconds because, to me, it's weird. It would be weird if my father or any YouTuber's father was doing this publicly, regardless of where the relationship stands or not. Like, it's a weird-ass thing, so I talked about it. End quote. Philosopher Stoned @SmollyWifey, March 5th, 2020. You still refer to him as Jaclyn Hill's father rather than his name. That's like saying Stephen Jones' father instead of Jim Jones himself, Jonestown. They're both doing effed up stuff, but the only thing connecting them is blood. End quote. Ho doggy. Philosopher Stone says that Jaclyn shouldn't have had to specify that she disowned her father since Shannon never should have brought it up to begin with. I've already explained why that's a dumb point on everybody's part. I personally side with Shannon in that you should be allowed to discuss a celebrity's public figure family member even if they've cut ties. If one of Donald Trump's kids ditches and cuts themselves off from the Trump family as a whole, people aren't going to stop bringing up their parents just because they aren't close anymore. After Shannon clarifies her stance, Philosopher Stone says, quote, "You still refer to him as Jaclyn Hill's father rather than his name," end quote. This is blatantly untrue, as Shannon says his name in the video. Jaclyn Hill's dad is a cult leader.
I found out that her father is a man by the name of Jim Ehlers. E-I-L-E-R-S. That's the name. I'm going to call it Ehlers. I don't know if that's how it's pronounced.
So yeah, she did use his real name in the video. If you'd actually watched the video, you would have known that. And if you were referring to the title and thumbnail instead of the video itself, the point is still stupid. Why would Shannon put Jim Ehlers as the title? Nobody knows who that is. Even if she did put his name in the title, she'd still have to specify that it was Jaclyn Hill's father anyway, so what does it even matter? And as for, they're both doing effed up stuff, but the only thing connecting them is blood. Yeah, dipshit. That's the point. He's her father, she's his daughter, they both did effed up shit. That is an inherent connection between the two. You fucking morons. This is why it's important to actually stop and read the things that flash up on screen. If these are a sample of the kinds of tweets Shannon was constantly receiving, I can understand why she was getting irritated with people and would start snapping at them. Stuff like these tweets makes it very difficult for me to try and take this situation seriously. It makes the people criticizing Shannon look like misinformed and clueless simps as they try to defend Jaclyn from arguments that were never made and points that were misrepresented using logic that makes no fucking sense. I don't blame Jones, the person from Maggie Mae Fish's video comment section, for describing the situation as Jaclyn sending her millions of cult members after a small YouTuber, because that's honestly what it feels like. People really needed to get their faces out of Jaclyn's hoo-ha and actually stop and think about what they were arguing and why.
That was a callback to Shannon's joke.
Please, tell me, am I canceled now? Please tell me I'm canceled now. Tobi flashes the Twitter interaction between Shannon and Jaclyn on screen and reads them out. A quick side note, I actually do want to give Tobi props for doing this. People need to get in the habit of reading their own screenshots more, as most people won't actually stop and do it themselves. So yeah, good job for that, Tobi. That's a point in your favor. Gold star. Gold sticker. Mountain Dew sent me PR at SM CreepShow, March 4th, 2020. We need to talk about how Jaclyn Hill's father is a full-on cult leader in Africa because somehow no one informed me of this and I just... ... end quote. Jaclyn Hill, verified, at Jaclyn Hill, March 4th, 2020. This is absolutely disgusting. I refuse to watch this video, but the title and thumbnail is so awful. What is wrong with you that you think it's even okay to speak of my birth father when I haven't even spoken to him in 10 years? Mind your own damn business. Too far. Mountain Dew sent me PR at SM CreepShow, March 4th, 2020. Quote, so talking about how your dad scammed people and publicly said he cured AIDS is too much and disgusting, despite it being public on his website that literally is the first result on Google. Sure. Also, not the only one to say this since it's public information, but alright. End quote. So, truth be told, I half agree with Jaclyn here. The title and thumbnail of Jaclyn's video are indeed awful. I do not blame Jaclyn for being disgusted by them. The thumbnail shows Jaclyn's father looming over her, looking in her general direction with a creepy smile. Jaclyn is front and center, looking distraught, as though she's being directly affected by Jim and his cultish activities. The text, "Her dad is God," goes hand in hand with the video's title, "Jaclyn Hill's dad is a cult leader." Not only is it clickbaity and exploitative, but also used very unethically. The "he is God" quote is in reference to a LinkedIn profile with Jim's name that Shannon found that has his occupation listed as God. Here's why this is an issue. Shannon said herself in the video that she didn't think the profile was legitimate and wrote it off saying,
because while it might be a funny meme and like haha for a little bit, based on the fact that there isn't an image and this page appears to be inactive, I doubt that this is actually legitimate. I doubt that this is actually a thing that he made.
This is extremely dishonest and manipulative. She brought up flimsy and potentially false information, yet, despite writing it off, used it as the backbone for not only the title and thumbnail, but her entire reading of the website. Shannon took the profile saying Jim's occupation was God to mean he was pretending to be God, and as such was building up a cult of followers to believe that as well.
We're talking about how her dad is a cult leader. That is right, my dude. He's a cult leader in Africa. But what absolutely positively is legitimate and does show that he is a cult leader is JimEllers.org, where he talks about, once again, how he is God and we should worship him. Jim was a youth pastor for 6 years in Illinois before God called him into the full-time ministry in 1998. The heart of Jim Ellers is about saving souls. It is their desire to take the gospel of Jesus Christ to places where he has not yet been publicly proclaimed. Their evangelical ministry has taken them to many nations. Since 1998, they have seen well over 1 million people born into the kingdom of God. Jim has seen multitudes of people healed both here in America and abroad as they minister and encourage people in churches throughout America and on foreign fields. Jim has seen crowds of 50 to 150,000 people gather in a single night of their crusades to hear the gospel of Jesus preached to them. In one 5-night crusade alone, they saw over 270,000 people born again. Jim welcomes the opportunity to preach, teach, and encourage those here in America. Jim says, if you have gotten too big to minister one person at a time, you have gotten too big. He welcomes the opportunity to minister in churches, prayer groups, home groups, small family, and friend gatherings. You never know where God has the next mighty man or woman of God hidden. He wants to plant the thought into the minds of people that he is this dope-ass guy doing dope-ass things, being Jesus's right-hand dude, throwing it up with God and Jesus all the time, everywhere, I get it. Sometimes you have to fake it till you make it. It keeps going, and it takes a wild-ass turn. A wild-ass cult turn, if you will. Which you absolutely will, because I told you to, and I am the captain of the ship. He has witnessed tremendous miracle healings in his crusades. This is but a few of the thousands upon thousands of bodily healings that he has witnessed God perform at his crusades around the world and in the USA. In the Khufu Zambia crusade, a woman was brought to the crusade who had fallen and broken her back. God touched her mightily as she came up to the platform, testifying of her miracle, and then proceeded to dance before the Lord, kicking her legs high into the air. Another woman was brought on a stretcher and had been bedridden for 8 months, dying of AIDS and just given days to live. As the word of God was preached, she believed and got up the stretcher and began to run to the platform and dance, testifying of what the Lord had done for her. She was totally healed by the power of God. All the glory goes to the Lord and Savior Jesus Christ. So that is something that apparently this man did. Jaclyn Hill's father is now saying on his webpage, on his official webpage, with the help of his employer, God, he has single-handedly cured someone who had a broken back. A woman in Africa came to him with her back completely broken and was able to heal. And he was able to heal her, not using advanced medicine, not using technology. He just simply touched her, and the word of God touched her, and her back just fixed its damn self. This man did something that apparently Jesus did in the Bible, because of course he would. Seriously, this man is talking about a woman dying of literal AIDS in Africa and saying he saved her and healed her because she came to see him. That is insane. Gross, manipulative, and fucking terrible. So there is so much more on jimellers.org if you want to go check it out. He includes testimonials of the crusades he has led, where he has helped save the sick and dying using only the power of God, where he has converted people, all of that, which I guarantee he didn't actually do. Like, he didn't heal anyone. Never once has she talked about doing it because her father convinced a group of people in Africa that he was God and could cure them of any disease like AIDS.
Shannon, you keep going back and forth between Jim following God and Jim literally being God. It would be a red flag you didn't put any thought into it before hitting record, but then again, you admitted as such yourself, so yeah. Good job on that one. You read the article aloud. You know full well that Jim never claimed he was the one healing people. The article stated Jim witnessed tremendous miracle healings in his crusades. If he truly believed he was God, why would he have witnessed the healings and not done the healings himself? Why would the website not say something like, Jim has granted tremendous miracle healings in his crusades, for example? The article stated over and over that it was the word of God that healed people when Jim, the preacher, read it aloud. You even let it slip at one point, starting off saying Jim healed a woman with a broken back, then correcting yourself saying that the word of God healed her. This is a deliberate misframing of the website on your part. Jim never claimed to be God. He never claimed people should worship him. He never claimed that he himself was healing people. I think that after you stumbled across that LinkedIn profile, you developed a serious confirmation bias that warped your interpretation and presentation of the website. This is inexcusable. And the thing that kills me is that as far as I know, nobody who has talked about this situation has ever brought this up. People were so focused on Jaclyn's part of the video that they didn't actually bother to check if Shannon was representing Jim correctly. Let that sink in. The people who were looking for evidence of Shannon being a liar missed an example that was staring them in the face. Oh my... So yeah, Jaclyn is completely justified in being disgusted by this. However, I highly disagree with her saying that Janet... I'm leaving that in, that's hilarious. I highly disagree with her saying that Shannon was out of line for speaking about her birth father, and that she needs to mind her own damn business as it's too far. Jaclyn, your late father's website was and still is accessible to the public. Shannon, as a member of the public, is within her rights to read the website aloud and discuss its content to her audience, who are also members of the public. It wasn't doxed material. Your father chose to share that publicly. It is not your choice whether people should be allowed to read it or not. Shannon did misrepresent what the website contained, but you didn't watch the video, so you wouldn't know that. I'm sorry, but even if it does trigger you to hear your father discussed, you can't dictate whether it's brought up or not. It's not your call. You can tweet your followers and explain that you're uncomfortable with it being discussed and ask them not to bring it up to you directly, but you can't just demonize other people for bringing it up whatsoever. I'm sorry, but I can't get behind you on that. The rest of the video from here is just Tobi repeating her thoughts and going on several tangents and making several points I don't feel it necessary to bring up. Ultimately, Jaclyn Hill's dad as a cult leader has been unlisted as Shannon is no longer comfortable with it being up, which, to be clear, is absolutely for the best. Shannon clearly states her feelings about the video in Hopeless Peaches Needs to Stop, as she had to give context for the falling out between herself and Peaches. Excuse me.
Then cue my Jaclyn Hill video. Now, I recently took this video down in the past couple months for one reason and one reason only, and that's because I found out things happened behind the scenes, and I am no longer comfortable with that video being up. But, seeing as that subject matter had been talked about by other YouTubers like Maggie Mayfly, as well as so many others, I stood by that video. A lot of people didn't like it, a lot of people felt like I was dragging things up for no reason, but the video just consisted of me reading this public figure's public website, and seeing as he was also a very public figure, I felt it was fair game. I don't stand by the video now, but that's my thought process going into it.
Again, while I will defend Shannon from the bad faith takes people made against her, I will not defend that video, nor the opinions she held in it, nor the points she made. The video was horribly put together, extremely rushed, biased, poorly thought out, uninformative, clickbaity, rambly as fuck, and generally unpleasant to watch. It is a video well worth criticizing, but not in the way that people like Tobi went about it. And with that said, it is time that we finally move on to Chapter 3 of The Faults of CreepShow Art, Karuna Satori, aka
My Living Hell.
Okay, so, actually, no, we're not going to be covering that in this video. I hate to say this, but this is gonna have to be a two-parter, guys. I'm sorry. I wasn't expecting this to be so friggin' long. I figured it'd take a half-hour max. But the script just kept getting bigger and bigger and bigger as I delved into Tobi's video more and more. I'm editing everything in OpenShot, a free video editing software, as I have no money for anything of actual quality. And trust me, OpenShot is a free-to-download, donation-based application that works about as well as you'd expect a free-to-download, donation-based application to work. As a result, the longer the video would get, the worse the program would perform. It was barely functional by the time I finished editing this end card. Hopefully I can fit everything into a sequel video and avoid making 3. I don't want to string you guys along that much. I know this deconstruction is YMS's Lion King 2019 review level length, but while lies and misinformation can take mere seconds to spread, it takes 10 times longer to articulate an informed rebuttal. Anyway, I'm linking my Twitter below, the only social I have, I'm sorry, as well as all of my sources used for this video. I don't know how long it will take me to get part 2 out, so you should subscribe and hit the notification bell to be alerted when it's uploaded.
Wink, wink.
So, with all that said, stay safe out there in the art commentary community, Civil War trenches. Oh, and also with a deadly virus.